Greetings, online investors, and welcome to another Investor Roadshow presentation from the Online Investment Conference. I'm Peter Norman, founder of the OIC, where our goal is providing you with investment ideas worth watching. Silverwolf Exploration is an exploration company focused on exploring high-potential projects in prime silver and gold regions of Mexico. Peter Latta is president of Silverwolf and joins us here today. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you so much. And I'm really excited about this company, and I think it's got a lot of potential. So I'll get right into it. I will be making some forward-looking statements. First and foremost, why silver? Personally, I'm a big believer in silver, both from the industrial metal component of it and the financial instrument component of it. Physical demand, I think, is going to continue to grow. The main factor being solar panels. That seems to be the main use case for silver in industry right now. And then, of course, there's the financial instrument component of silver, which I think is very compelling as well. It's essentially gold's brother and can ward off inflation. And that's something I think we'll be able to see in the coming year in 2024. I think we'll see gold and silver serve its purpose of being a hedge against inflation. So I'm very, very bullish on the outlook for these metals. And I'm excited to see how they can operate in the market. Just moving to the project now, we are focusing on Mexico. And as Peter mentioned, this is a sister project, or a sister company, I should say, of Avino silver and gold mines. And so it's also where I work. I don't take a salary at Silverwolf, so that we can pour all the funds we receive and generate back into the ground. The strength is Mexico. That's where we've operated at Avino for 53 years. And that's where the project is located here. It's the Ana Maria property in Durango, Mexico, and I'll show a slide where Durango actually is for the people watching here. We have an option to acquire 100% of the ownership of the project, and it's a very inexpensive option of $600,000 over 4 years with no royalty currently on the property. As I mentioned, those Avino synergies are significant because there's very low overhead. No one takes a salary for the corporate staff, and that's key to keep the burn rate low and keep the money efficiently going into the ground. And it lowers drilling costs as well, because we can use Avino's drills. The other benefit of working with Avino is that we understand the jurisdiction quite well. We've been in Durango, as I mentioned, for over 50 years, have an experienced workforce, understand how to access the infrastructure and labor force. So it makes it very easy for us to operate there. Now, there has been no modern exploration done on this property. No drills have ever been present on the property, which is really exciting, because it means we could be on the brink of a discovery. There is, however, some historical small-scale mining, which are always very good indications that there could be something there. As they say, the best place to find a new mine is in the shadow of a headframe or around an old mine. So once again, we're leveraging strengths and focusing on Durango. Durango, as you can see right here, is in the center of the country. It is not a border or a port state, so that means it's a relatively safe place from any sort of illegal activity that may or may not go on in Mexico. The other beautiful thing about this property, very easy access to infrastructure right off main paved roads here. It's Highway 45 with easy access to power and water, with the closest city being Torreon, which is a major hub in Durango. It's actually the main city for Peñoles, which is one of the oldest mining companies in Mexico. That's where Peñoles started and where they have their head offices. So there's a lot of very skilled labor. The other key important point that we started this project out is to have signed agreements with local ejidos to establish the best practice for ESG there, to work with the locals, helping us build roads or access roads or access paths to the places we want to inspect, and getting them involved early so that when we, God willing, help permit the project and get ready to extract, or we've already established a very good working relationship with them. We recently hosted a site visit for a number of newsletter writers and various investors from both Europe and North America, and we held it on the property. A number of people were very interested and have since written up a number of articles on the property. So there are site visits that are potential if that's something that your viewers are interested in. We do host them from time to time, and seeing for yourself and hearing the geologist firsthand while looking at the rocks is always a very convincing way to understand the potential of a project. Now, this is the Lassonde curve. This is probably the most critical graph that is to understand mining and to understand the life cycle of a mineral discovery and a mining project. The most amount of value creation in our industry is done in this point, from pre-discovery to discovery. This is where you go from essentially just rocks on the ground and moose pasture, as they call it, to making something or to making a discovery that has value in the ground. So this is the most exciting part and arguably the most romantic part of our industry, which is a lot of fun to be part of a discovery. And that's the opportunity at Silver Wolf. It's rare. The other main component, just for your viewers' information there, is the development component of it. So once a discovery has been made, then a bunch of engineering work gets done, and plants get built, and the mine gets put into production, and there's a ramp up there. But the most exciting time and the most speculative time is going from pre-discovery to discovery, and that's exactly what we have with Silver Wolf. And so a key component of that is having the right people on board. So David Wolfen has been in the business for 35 years. His father started, actually, believe it or not, over 50 years ago, since 1968. His father started a number of companies, has been in the mining business, and David took over as chairman and CEO of Avino in the early 2000s, and he's also chairman of Silver Wolf. Peter Schreiber is an ex-investment banker from Switzerland. Stephen Williams is currently vice president of corporate development for Bluestone and Lundin Mining. I myself am a professional engineer with 15 years of experience. Hans Akachpol is a PhD geologist, working extensively in Mexico, and worked for Teck, Sumitomo, and a number of other big companies as a board of director. Rodney Stevens is VP Finance, is a CFA. Nathan Hart is CFO from Deloitte, ex-Deloitte, and Carlos Rodriguez, VP of Exploration, very experienced gentleman, graduated from the Colorado School of Mines with a geology degree, and is also the Chief Operating Officer of Avino. So we have a lot of key personnel in these key positions, and as I mentioned, none are taking salaries because they all believe in the project. We also have a guy by the name of Vic Chevelon. Vic made a discovery for what is now Discovery Silver. He discovered 1.2 billion ounces of silver in Chihuahua, Mexico, for what is known as the Cordero Project, which is just fantastic to have his experience. He's got over 50 years experience. He's 72 years old, and he's still out there hiking the mountains with our geology team and kicking over rocks because he just loves geology. Garth Kirkham's also involved, a very experienced geophysicist that operates on a number of different projects, a key contributor as well. So the other thing needed to take advantage of that discovery on that Lassonde curve is we need a tight share structure. That's exactly what we have here. There's only 35 million shares outstanding. We've never rolled it back. And a lot of that is held, more than 50% is held by management and insiders. Meaning that when the stock moves, it can move very quickly. As you can see there, there's only 4 million warrants outstanding and just over 3 million options. So even fully diluted, there's only 43 million shares outstanding, which is very tight float compared to a lot of exploration companies that are currently on the market. One of the reasons why we don't take a salary is to keep that share count low. That's the idea, so that we're aligned with shareholders and we see the appreciation, the capital appreciation when we make a discovery. That is the goal that we're trying to align ourselves with, so that we are aligned with shareholders. So the model that we're following is the model by Peter McGaw for the CRD and skarn geological model. And the key thing to take away here is this intrusive stock here. This is the main geological feature. This is going to be a hard rock that's going to come penetrate the soft rocks and allow for hot hydrothermal fluids to come deposit minerals around in kind of a halo around the intrusive, and then distal to the intrusive on these chimneys and manto-like structures through these soft carbonate rocks. So the key factor is you need an intrusive and you need some soft carbonates, and then you need some hydrothermal fluids. So this is the model that Peter pioneered. He's made a number of discoveries in Mexico and around Mexico with this model, and that's exactly what we're following. Keeping that in mind, this pink structure here on this, as you can see here, that is that main intrusive body. So that is what's penetrating these green carbonate rocks. You can also see our property boundaries here in blue, shaded in blue, these 3 property boundaries. We have 2 targets there. Once again, just going back to the previous slide, you see this skarn target in that halo effect around the intrusive. And you have the CRD or carbonate replacement deposit in those chimneys and mantos, which is distal to that intrusive. We're on that boundary layer between that intrusive and carbonates. That's that skarn target. We've just applied for permits and are expecting those very soon. And then this is the CRD target, the carbonate replacement deposit target, that we have received drill permits for and are ready to drill. So 2 different targets on the same property, over 2,500 hectares. So then you go to that southern claim and you look at the historical workings. This is key. These were historical miners, artisanal miners that would just follow a vein for a little while and see what they found. And they found, what looks to be a lot of silver. We've sampled around this area and we see some very good grades. So once again, that's a very key consideration for us, is understanding, hey, these were some miners that were working in the area, and this goes before the time of the Mexican Revolution, which is going to be in the early 1900s. So you sample around some of these historic workings once we got our bearings on the site, and what we came up with was some very good grades. You see here 1,227 grams per ton silver, 1,300 grams per ton silver, 20% lead, 11% zinc, 16% lead, 792 grams per ton silver. Some very, very good grades and consistent across a number of the areas and historic workings in the property, which gives us confidence that, hey, there certainly was something there. And because no modern exploration has been done, geophysics and various mapping techniques, and certainly no drilling, it allows us to go back to those areas and think of, well, what's underneath? What's a little bit deeper? Where's some of the areas that these artisanal miners didn't look because they were just chasing a vein? Then we can take some of those grades, those lead grades, and make what's called a contour map. And that essentially creates a bullseye for us. You sample around the area and you realize, okay, this is where the higher concentration is, certainly the darker colors, is the higher concentration of lead. Typically in CRD deposits, carbonate replacement deposits, the silver values follow the lead values. And the silver also follows the zinc, but that lead is a key indicator. So this creates a heat map for us where we can target, where we think we can target. Here's where a bullseye is. Why don't we put a drill in there and see what we see at depth? The other thing that gives us a lot of confidence is the historic Awela mine. So that was mined, discovered in almost 1600 there. And it was one of Peñoles' first mines in the early 1900s. And it pulled out 160 million ounces at very, very high grade. And the beauty of this mine, although it's not in operation now, is that it's a museum, so that we can spend a lot of time there, walk the ground, and see the geological features that are there, and then compare them to our property. So our geologists have done just that. They spent a lot of time there, and they're starting to see a lot of similarities, which is absolutely fantastic. A couple of things to take from this slide here. This is a top-down view of the same property that I showed before, with that main intrusive. You see our property boundaries in red. And these are the historic mines in the area. So La Platosa was the highest grade mine in Mexico up here. That was discovered by Peter McGaw using that same formula. That was a mine run by Exelon, very, very high grade. And CRD, same, carbonate replacement deposit mine. Here's this Awela mine. That's 9 kilometers away from the intrusive. We know, as documented in the literature, this intrusive created this mine. Once again, those hot hydrothermal fluids coming up distal to the that intrusive in the carbonate rocks. And we know that this intrusive created this mine. So we have this claim 9 kilometers on the other side of the intrusive, which gives us confidence that if we know this intrusive created this mine and this mine, it's not too far-fetched to think that there is another mine waiting to be discovered right here, the same distance away, when we're seeing some of the same geological features that we see at both of these mines. So that's very exciting for us. And as I mentioned, you map some of those features. You map both the anticlines. You map some of the mines and prospects that you see there. This being the Awela mine here, and then taking that and looking at it with on our property on El Soldado there as well. Seeing the same geological features gives us a lot of confidence that it's something that we need to drill and get some results on. Moving to the next target, that's the recompensa target. That's that middle claim on the boundary between the intrusive and the carbonates. You have what's called the skarn. You can see, you don't need to be a geologist to tell that these rocks are a different color than this rock. And then that's the beauty of skarns, especially when they outcrop on surface, but they're very easy to identify. And you can chase this skarn as it outcrops across the boundary layer between that intrusive and those carbonates, which is exactly what we did. We followed that skarn, that boundary along the property. And once again, they're very easy to identify, so you can understand, well, this is where that skarn is present. So what happens at depth? And all you need to do is put a drill in there to test it. So once again, we sampled the length of that boundary layer between the intrusive and the carbonates, and we got some extremely good results. Typically, what you would see with skarns, not so high lead and silver values, but typically skarns are more gold and zinc related, and that's exactly what we see here. 37 grams per ton gold, 7% zinc, 4% zinc, 5% zinc, 1 gram gold, 7 grams gold, 5 grams gold in different areas along the boundary, as I mentioned, along that skarn on the boundary layer between this intrusive and these carbonates. So we have 5 kilometers of strike length there that we had to map to understand where that skarn is, which means that it could be, a fairly large deposit depending on the width of the skarn at depth. That's one of the things the drill bit needs to determine is, what does that skarn look like at depth and what is the width of it? So what we imagine for a drill program is 10,000 meters over 2 claims based on those geophysics and mapping results. And with the Avino relationship, as I mentioned, we can drill for just about $125 a meter. And we focus on those 2 targets, those CRD targets, as I mentioned, and that skarn target after we receive the permits on the skarn, as I mentioned. So that's 5,000 meters approximately on each target. This is the recompensa, that middle property target. 2 stages, 2,600 meters for the first stage, 2,600 meters for the second stage. And this is El Soldado, 2,500 meters and 2,300 meters for stage 1 and stage 2, respectively. This will be our first target here, as we have permits for that, and we are really excited to get that going. So you can see that drill program laid out with the lead contour map. As you can see, it penetrates the kind of the heart of that like a bullseye would. And the conceptual idea of the recompensa drill program penetrating into that skarn at depth. So we need to understand what happens with that skarn. Does it pinch? Does it swell? What's the size of it? And of course, what's the grade of that skarn? Because we know it exists on surface. So the question is, what is happening at depth? So the timeline and milestones we have, we finished off our targeting in 2022. We submitted permits and received them in December of last year. And we plan to drill this year in the second quarter of this year. And that'll take about 4 to 6 months to get some results. And as soon as we have some results, we will be excited to share them with you as we work towards a potential discovery. So the investment case, we have a very focused and experienced team with an asset in a familiar jurisdiction. We have that blue sky CRD skarn potential in an area known for CRDs and skarns. We have easy access to infrastructure, skilled labor, and that discounted drilling through our partner with Avino. And then the optionality for exit. It's not something I talked about, but the distance between Avino and Silver Wolf is a truckable distance. And there's precedent for that in the area, that you would kind of truck to a mill complex instead of having to build a big mill. You could just build a mine, assuming that you find a high-grade resource to extract. But that makes the resource required a lot smaller. So that's very exciting. And of course, there are a number of operators in the area, whether that's Peñoles or Fresnillo or whatnot, that may be interested in this property. So exciting to potentially look at some partners if and when we make a discovery. So thank you very much. I'll hand it back to Peter for any questions.
Peter, outstanding presentation. You really know your stuff and you really know your project. Now let's delve into a few questions. Carlos Rodriguez is your VP Exploration and also COO of Avino. Could it be said that you're Avino's exploration division while they're the production operation?
I mean, this property was originally with Avino, and we thought we weren't getting any value for it in Avino. So the idea was to spin it out into Silver Wolf to realize some of that project value and develop it. Because Avino's tied up with its own mining project and its own exploration around its mine, as well as the mine that it just purchased, the La Preciosa mine. So definitely different risk profiles. And it allows Silver Wolf to be laser focused on making a discovery.
You haven't done any drilling to date, just sampling, but you've just received the drilling permits. How far are we away from the drills starting to turn, and how many dollars do you estimate will be allocated to the first stage of drilling?
I would like to start drilling. I would have liked to start drilling months ago. But the reality is that, especially with exploration projects, it's got to be market dependent. Once again, I'm very concerned about keeping our share structure tight to help those investors that were in early, as well as myself. So the idea is, to wait for the market conditions that would support exploration targets. Now, I think that's just around the corner as the demand for metals increases. But currently, there's not a lot of risk capital in the market right now. The key with one of the key differentiators of Silver Wolf is its ability to be patient. We don't have a high burn rate, and we don't need to over dilute shareholders by raising money at low prices. So when the market was ready, we'll raise the money and do the drill program.
You say you're just at the pre-discovery phase of the Lassonde curve. That's exciting. On the curve, that's followed by speculation and then the discovery phase. What are the factors that you think will push you up the curve?
And it really comes down to the drill bit at this point in time. We just need one drill hole to give a sniff of reasonable grades in it, and I think it'll attract a lot of attention. As I mentioned, this area is known for high grade, silver, gold, lead, and zinc discoveries. There are some mines in the area, and it's not too far fetched to think that there's another one close by, and that's exciting.
How much cash do you have left in the bank, and what's your burn rate?
Yeah, burn rate's quite low. As I mentioned, no one takes a salary, so that's kind of the key factor. One of the main differentiating factors of Silver Wolf as well is to keep that burn rate really low, so that we have the patience to wait for the right timing, so we don't over dilute our shareholders, as I mentioned, and we can capitalize on that growth and interest when it returns to the market, as it always does.
Is there a need for additional financings on the horizon, even though that would probably be unpleasant to do at 7 cents a share?
Yes, we will absolutely need to raise money for the drill program, but we don't want to do it at these prices and in this market. Certainly, the exploration market is out of favor, but I believe that will change soon. And when it does change, it can change so rapidly. And at that point in time, I think it'll be a lot easier, and we'll see better prices quite quickly. Because there isn't a lot of shares outstanding, our market can move very, very quickly. It doesn't take very much outside buying. And I believe as we generate interest in the project, a lot more people will come into the space.
Board, management, and Avino own about 52% of the stock. If you do a financing, do you expect them to participate and maintain their percentage shares?
I do expect them to participate, and myself as well.
Are there any ESG issues of concern in your project area?
No, not currently. As I mentioned, we approached the locals. Then the local villages are aware of the project. They understand. We were able to get a drill permit at a difficult time in Mexico, which is kudos to the team down there. So I think we've started off on the right foot, and that's something we've learned in certainly at Avino.
You mentioned proximity to infrastructure and availability of qualified personnel. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, Durango is a very mining-friendly state with a huge history in mining, meaning there's a strong labor force that understands what exploration is, how to do it. Lots of geologists, lots of engineers, lots of equipment operators, which is not necessarily the same or common in other remote parts of the world. That access to that skilled labor makes it a lot easier, very easy to operate, like you would in North America or other places. So that's a key factor of what makes it very easy to operate in Mexico and very inexpensive.
What are your medium and long-term corporate goals for Silver Wolf? What do you see as your main growth drivers?
To drill. The focus is to drill. Raise the money to drill when it's appropriate in the market, and get the drill turning to make a discovery. Drilling will be the main growth driver. Putting out assay results that indicate that there's a potential for discovery, that is the That's the thing that's going to be really exciting.
Your stock rose from an initial 5 cents per share in June of 2020 to 60 cents per share in June 2021, then has been drifting back down to its current 7 cents. Any comments on what took it up back then and then what took it down?
It certainly speaks to the volatility of the metals market and more so the exploration market, and it comes into and out of favor, more so than other markets. But every time it falls out of favor, we think, oh, it's never coming back again, and then it does, and it comes back with a vengeance, and it come back very quickly. And we have an exciting project, so it doesn't take very much outside buying to really move our market.
Our final question here. What makes Silver Wolf different from all the other junior exploration companies that have been beaten up over the last year or so?
The key is focusing on managing our burn rate, not taking a salary, stringing out that the cash that we do have as long as possible, so we don't have to dilute our shareholders. So when the time is right, we can see a large amount of appreciation in our share price to reward those shareholders that believe in us.
And that concludes our question period and our presentation for today. And Peter, before we bring this session to a close, do you have any final remarks you'd like to share with our audience?
I think the reason to invest in Silver Wolf is because we're on the cusp of making a discovery. It's the most exciting thing in our industry. We have a good project with good people in a well-known jurisdiction. I would just recommend that your audience takes a look at our team and their background. It's absolutely incredible to have such a high-powered team. We have a fantastic project that's never been drilled. No company has held this project before. It hasn't been kicked around. So we have a great chance at making a discovery with a blue sky potential for a CRD or skarn discovery. And I think now is a great time because exploration and the metals market more broadly is out of favor, meaning prices are very low. So it's a great time to get in as the interest in the metals and exploration market will build over this year. And our stock price is currently at an all-time low. You can accumulate a position so that when it becomes back in favor, we can see large appreciation.